Hello, everybody. This is Josiah. Welcome back to another episode of Josiah's Voice podcast. Really honored and really excited for this guest today. This guest we met in Uganda. At the time of this recording, it's June, but I met this person in April of this year on a trip, a weekend trip with some friends for their birthday. And we kind of surprised them with dancing and singing from a local academy. And the instructor is here today to chat about the school, about her students, about her life, about the importance of art and dance, song, and more in her life. So I'm not going to try to say her last name because I don't want to mess it up, but I want you all to help me welcome Ruth. Ruth, welcome.
Yeah. Hi, Josiah. Thank
Hello.
you. So nice to see you again. Nice to be here on your podcast.
Thank you. It's wonderful to see you as well and to catch up again. It's always fun to see what you all are up to on Instagram. By the way, guys, I will link Ruth's Instagram, the school. The school is Grace Villa. I will link their information in the show notes and on the website so as that you can learn more about them, so as that you can support and everything. Yeah, Ruth, how do I say how do we say your last name so we get that right?
All right. So it's Ndyabahika, but I usually say just break it up into two bits. India, like the
Mhm.
country. Bahika. So it's
India,
Ndyabahika.
Ndyabahika.
Exactly. See?
Okay. Okay. All
Now you're
right.
speaking Richiga.
Nice. Oh, is
Yeah.
that the how do I say, is
It,
it the dialect or is go ahead.
yeah. So I'm from Kabale, which is where you came for the birthday party.
That's
And
correct.
so Kabale is in South Western Uganda. So it's a district in its on its own, and our language is Ruchiga.
Mhm.
So my all of our names have meaning. So Ndiabahika means I will eventually reach them, and it has a Christian connotation. So it's probably like I will eventually get to the saints in heaven or something like that. So all our names have meanings.
That's
Actually, my
beautiful.
middle name is Kendeje, Ken
Kendeje.
Kendeje, and an airplane is Endeje. So my mom had me in her belly when she was flying to the United States, and my grandmother named me of an airplane. So my middle name is Kendeje.
That's really cool. Wow. I like that. And you may or may not know, or some of you who listen may or may not know. If we say see each other and this and that, that's because Ruth and I are on Zoom right now. Um, but my name Josiah is biblical as well, and is got a few meanings like just God heals and God's fire, God's zeal, wholeness, things like
Right.
that. So I remember Bradley because that's my last name, but I forgot what it means right now. Oh no, broad meadow, I think, or a lee, I think in English, I think is another word for a meadow or an open space.
Mm-hmm.
So like
Ali.
I think I'm saying that right. Yes. You guys may have to fact check me if you care. If not, don't worry about it. But I think I vaguely remember that. I think in English, Lee, Lea, actually, I think is another word for them for a vast open field or meadow or something. So that's cool. Yeah, names have power. Names are special. Your
Mm-hmm.
identity's wrapped up in that. So that's wonderful. So let's get into a little bit more about yourself, Ruth. Would you mind telling folks? Thank you for going into the dialect and your names and everything and where you're from. Would you mind getting into letting people know how you got involved in dance and the arts?
Great fella. Yeah. Yeah, thanks for asking. So nowadays, I introduce myself as the founder of Grace Villa, which is a home for girls. It's a sanctuary, a kind of safe space for children in Kabale. But I'm a child psychologist by profession, and I don't know if this makes me more interesting or less interesting, but I lived in the U.S. for a while, and that's where that's where I went to college, and that's where I worked. I started working, so I was actually there for a long time, for about 2 decades. Um, and yeah, it was home. It was home. I loved it. I liked what I was doing. All my friends were there. I lived with my brother, my big brother Apollo. So you're in the world of film, so film actually was part of the reason that I moved to Uganda. So we had a group
Wow.
of friends. It is. So we had a group of friends, and every Friday would have a movie night, and would choose a home, and everybody would take food, and then they would pick the movie and bring it to the house. So they were all American friends, and not African Americans. They were all Caucasian Americans. So they went, I guess, to Blockbuster or wherever you got movies from in those days, and
Oh,
came
I
with the
miss
most
Blockbuster.
Ugandan. I know. I was just reading all these. I was on Instagram following a hashtag about Blockbuster the other
No,
day.
so
I'm
do I.
missing
I still have my block.
it.
When we move, I'm sorry to interrupt. I think you'll like this.
Yeah.
Hold on
Yeah.
to your thought. When I was packing up to move to Rwanda,
Yes.
I totally forgot about it. I found my Blockbuster membership card.
Your card.
I found my, so I kept it. So it's here somewhere
Yeah.
here at the house.
It's
So
so
I,
much nostalgia.
yeah, a relic of a bygone age. So,
Yeah.
but yes, but continue. So
Oh,
you and your friends would rent
yeah.
movies from Blockbuster.
So I'm thinking. So I guess they looked for the most African or even actually Ugandan thing they could find. So they came with this DVD called "The Invisible Children." I don't know if any of you have watched it. It's a documentary that basically documents the lives of children in northern Uganda who were abducted. A group called the Invisible Children.
Okay.
So there was this evil, horrible person in northern Uganda called Joseph Kony, and there was a war going on, and he was the person who had started the war. And as a way of creating his army, he would bring in little kids because kids are easy to indoctrinate and easy to like they can through little holes and pass through little places and basically create havoc. So he was this evil person who abducted little boys and little girls to make them child brides. So it was a very dark time in the northern Uganda, and it was a documentary was created called The Invisible Children, which was all about these kids. So, and the power of film. You watch something and you see a visual. We had heard about this, what was happening, and they're actually called the night commuters because every night kids would leave their homes, pack whatever they could sleep on, and move in droves into town to go sleep in public spaces, which were safer because if they stayed home, chances of them being abducted were really high. So they're called the night commuters, and we all knew about it. But watching and seeing different little kids tell their stories about how, all these awful atrocities that were happening in their lives. And I remember one kid he said, "What is your dream?" And this kid said, "I would like to see what peace looks like." So these generations had never ever seen peace. So, and here I am in my house, and I'm being taught by these people who are not even from my country through this documentary that they brought. I remember I was really broken down, and they were asking us all these questions. We hardly had answers, and we were sad, we were ashamed, we were miserable. So that night we flipped the DVD and got the contact at the back, and there was a number, and we actually called the people who made the documentary because through it we could tell that they had created a sort of movement that was trying to do all they could to bring an end to that war that was going on, especially with a focus on the children. So long story short, my brother, who I lived with at that time in Boston, Massachusetts. So my brother and I, just long story short, we became part of that movement called the Invisible Children. So what that was we started doing all we could to make as much noise as we could in the United States, writing to senators, like storming the White House, just doing everything we could to create awareness of the situation so that people in the United States would push the government in Uganda to actually do something, and even the world to create, how powerful it is to create awareness. So here I was, I was in college at that time, very shy, not good. I didn't like, I mean, my paper would shake when I would stand in front of an audience,
Yeah.
but it was, it was either I spoke or nobody would speak for these kids. So
Wow.
that pushed me, and that pushed my brother. And in the end, that became pretty much my life. People thought I was from Northern Uganda, and I'm from the complete opposite. I'm from the West, Southwest, you know. And I would go to events, any Ugandan event, everything. So in the end, so I'm not gonna go too much into that because it kind of got a bit political. But I remember in the Obama actually signed a declaration of peace. Like Connie was put on the most wanted list. So things came from what we did. Like we actually
Yeah.
saw an impact. And this college kid saying, my goodness, the world is, I'm actually creating some sort of change. So through all that, I discovered something that I liked to do. That's a gift, actually seeing that this is something that brings me fulfillment. And this is actually where I want my life to go. So my holidays back to Uganda ceased to be just to hang out and party and meet relatives and stuff. I would spend a portion of it in northern Uganda, actually helping out in the schools there. And
Mm-hmm.
at some point, the war ended because of all the efforts, and it became a period of reconciliation. And I'm trying to build back this place that had been a war zone for over 2 decades.
Wow.
So so with my background in child psychology, I found a lot of ways to get involved. And as I grew, I was now in the work environment in the United States. I'd come for holidays and I'm in the work environment with these kids. And I just felt like, what am I doing? I feel like I'm more needed at home than in the United States. So, and especially in a field like mine, where you're actually dealing with kids and empathy is important and presence is important. I ceased to be present in my space in the US. I ceased to be good at what I was doing because my heart was at home in Uganda. So I knew it was time to go back home. So yeah, so I packed up everything. And it was very scary, I must say. It was
Oh.
exciting, but more scary than exciting. But I committed myself. I went, everybody knew what I was going to do. Everybody knew I was moving. So I pretty much couldn't back out. And eventually, 9 years ago, I moved to Kabale and started Grace Villa.
Wow. How come, if I may, can you pinpoint what was scary about packing up and moving back?
Mhm. Um, I was leaving a job where I knew I was getting an income because I'd
Yeah.
started working, and I knew I wouldn't be. I was moving into a realm. I was not going to with a company. I was not being
Mm-hmm.
moved. I was going into a world where I knew all the funds would now come from me. For it to succeed. I was living with my brother, and he's like
Mm.
my best friend. So I didn't like that
Oh,
was
wow.
hard, and all my comfort, my friends, my best friends were there, and
Yeah.
my house. I had a house,
Mm.
so I was living and I liked it. And then I was thinking about all that. I mean, I was a bit spoiled. I mean, I've been away for a while. I was moving to a village. I knew there
Sure.
would not
Sure.
be things like paper towel, like
Yeah.
actually,
No,
things
that's
that
real.
things seem trivial. But so I remember packing all kinds of stuff. But sadly, my container disappeared. It didn't arrive. So all the
Oh.
comfort stuff that I had taken with me didn't arrive. But then I ended up not missing it. Like life went on. I ended up not missing it. And eventually paper towel came to Kabale and stuff
Yes.
that I still don't buy it. Like, you learn I found out that things that I was worried about didn't bother me when I actually was on the ground. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, so I think the main things were the financial independence, because even through college I was working. I'd never been like a broke person. I always found a way of making money. So I knew I was suddenly going to be, I could potentially find myself without money.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've always been an independent girl. Even through high school, I was working and going to miss my friends and then my home thing. So those are the basic things that were, and I was going into an uncertainty, like what if I failed at what I was doing? There was no blueprint for a Grace Villa. So what if I failed? So
Gotcha. No, that's I see some overlap with when my family and I left. It's not exactly the same, but we were through some research with phone calls or YouTube things to figure out, when we wanted to do this, we had to consider like, yeah, we're used to I heard one woman who lives in Tanzania say like in the West, so maybe it's Europe or maybe it's the States, you're used to a lot being handed to you. You're used to a
Mhm.
lot of all that convenience, a lot of that infrastructure that
Yes.
is in place already. That depending on where you go outside of the West, depending on what country, depending on where you're going or where you're going back home to, those things might not be in place for one reason or another. And there was a lot of minimalism. If you're familiar with some of that, I'm a little familiar myself with just stripping down those things that you're used to, those conveniences that are very easy to take for granted um, when you come from that. But we also found in some areas like we something happened when we went to the airport and our luggage, we had waited and waited and there was some type of misunderstanding and they said our luggage was too heavy, so we had to get rid of stuff, and we're readers.
Mhm.
So we had a lot of books with us actually, and I
Yeah,
don't know if
books
I'm,
are heavy.
and books are very, yes, they are very heavy. And we gotten, I don't remember how many we had. I'm sure it was under 100, but it was still very heavy. And so, and I'm also a comic book fan. And so
Yeah.
I had to like, we're there,
Oh.
we went and found a corner and just opened all our luggage and we're getting rid of actually mostly, thankfully, no clothes or anything like that. But it was, I can't remember everything else, but it was things like books and things that we could part with. And I'm just running over as people, there's a trash can by the escalator and people are going up the escalator and I'm dumping comic books in there,
Oh.
just to, because I was like, oh, I thought I'd trimmed it down, but I thought it would really bother me. Again, it's not exactly the same, but that memory came to mind of just things you're used to, conveniences
Yeah.
and things that you grew up with. And I found that, now I'm here, I don't even really remember any of the titles that I got rid of. I don't really think about them.
Mhm. Yes.
Just you
Yes.
just kind of move forward.
Mhm.
Yeah. So that's wonderful. And you were speaking also to you're starting something new. Um, well, let me see. Because that's really powerful. Here, before I go to that, let me ask what got you inspired to pursue child psychology in the first place? And then I'll ask the business question after.
Yeah. Originally I thought I had planned to do law. And then so that story kind of got overshadowed by the Grace Villa story. But I do remember it was partly because of Uganda has been a war-torn country for like through my childhood. I lived
Okay.
in
Okay.
well, now I'm kind of telling people my age bracket by telling by referencing this, but I lived in an era of where there was war going on. Like there was
Okay.
a succession war, always a succession war going on. Like a new
Wow.
president would be coming, and then there would be this whole coup d'etat, and
Okay.
so we always had issues to
Okay.
do with security and safety until the 80s. That's when we haven't had a war since. Um,
Oh, thank
so
goodness.
we always had kids. Yes, yes. So I remember when my sister was born, my dad, in order to take my mom to the hospital, he put our mattresses under the bed so that stray bullets wouldn't come through the window and hit us. But he made it all a game and he's playing this loud music so we don't hear bullets. Like we lived through a war era, but we kind of
Wow.
didn't know because we were being protected by our dad and
Wow.
and
Bless
our
him.
mom. So yes, he was amazing. So my sister was born on a day when a certain president overthrew another one, and my actually one grandmother wanted to name her Masasi, which means bullets, and my
Wow.
mom said absolutely not. Yeah, because she yeah. Anyway, so there was the so for some reason I always felt like I wanted to do something that would help psychologically, like help a generation grow up in a way that they were aware of what they had been through, but find strength in certain ways. So it was something like, and then when I got to the States, so I had thought it would be law. I actually thought I would do child law. Then when I got to the States, I don't know, I mentioned that I worked a lot. Like I worked through college.
Yes.
And one of the jobs I did was babysitting. And I loved it. I loved it. It
Ah,
made really good money. I actually made a lot of money. I almost quit school because I
yes,
felt
they
like,
do.
yeah. And I even remember I won an award in Boston for being like an amazing babysitter. So I'm
Oh,
like,
wow.
dude, I found my calling. And then so that also helped direct me towards child psychology, because I found that I loved being around kids. And yeah, so that's how I came up with my major.
Wow. Is there anything off the top of your head that you're like, this is why I love children so much, and this is why you should too?
Mm. I don't know. I think this is me, because right from when I was little, I always babysat even our cousins. Like it was always Ruth that they called to look after the babies, and babies liked me. And yeah, so even when I was tiny, I remember in primary school they would call me to even teach the younger classes when teachers had meetings going on. And in when we got to, like when I was in high school, I remember taking over. There was no Sunday school at our church. There was an All Saints church in Kampala, and the Sunday school had died for some reason. I think lack of teachers. And I decided I'm going to start the Sunday school. And I think I was in high school. I was in high school in the second year, and I actually restarted the Sunday school, and it became really huge. And up to, like, I remember through high school, I would meet kids who were almost my age saying, "Oh, my teacher." So people thought I was older than I was.
Very
So
mature, very focused
so
at your age.
yeah, so I don't know. That's a good question. I'm gonna actually think more about that. Why is it that I like being around? There's something about kids that I like. It's like, I just love kids, and kids tend to like me too. So
That's beautiful. Yeah, I'm hearing it's reciprocal, and I definitely saw that in
mm,
Kabali for sure. Just the energy, just the love, the camaraderie, just it just seemed like everything was just. It's almost like you were an extension of them, and they were an extension of you. At least that's how it looked to me. To me, it just
yeah.
flowed, and it's just you all are like family, and that Sunday school teacher story is really cool because it sparked a question I hadn't even thought of, but it sounds like yeah, through your love of children and childlike energy and instruction, it's like you also you discover that you are a leader. Would that be
Mhm.
correct? That's how it sounded to me anyway.
Yeah, I like you saying that. But yeah, I think so. I did throughout, always took up some sort of leadership position for some reason. Even in school, being a prefect, starting with being a monitor, being a prefect. I was a head girl at some point. So
Wow.
yes.
Yeah.
And then yeah, I actually should talk about this. Even in my adult age. Like I am enjoy I found that I do enjoy being a part of organizations, and actually being a part of them in a way that I help make decisions for some reason. So one of the things that I have been a part of is an organization called, it's a cultural organization called International Community of Banyakigezi. Our region in Kabale is in a greater region called Kigezi. And people in the United States, like just like you have reunions, we would have an annual convention where people from my tribe would gather in one place once a year. So people would fly down and would all gather, and would get big groups, sometimes up hundreds and hundreds of people. And it was great because it will help us, um, like especially with the kids, teach them our culture, have them listen to what people speaking in our language. We have
Beautiful.
our food, our dances. And then on top of all that, there was a connotation of social responsibility, where we would give back to our communities here in Uganda. So it had grown to become a really, it is actually a really big, very powerful organization that actually lobbies as well for roads. And like it became a strong organization that's recognized by the government in Uganda. So I at one point I was the general secretary, the deputy general secretary, and then after that I ran for president and I won. And I was the first
Wow.
woman ever.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's amazing.
And yeah, I was the first woman and the youngest person ever to be. So I was president for about 4 or 5 years of that organization, which was really, I'm proud of that.
That's good. You should be. Wow, that's great. Yeah, I mean, I know we only met the one time, so I'm thinking like I didn't know that, but there's so much I don't know, which is why I'm so glad that we're able to talk. But it's cool to see that through line. I wasn't sure if you had that through line or if you just happen to be really, really good at leadership and organization. Maybe you fell into this later in life. That happens to people all the time. They are on maybe another track entirely different. Like I've talked to filmmakers who actually thought they were going to go to the NFL, and play basketball, football their whole lives and be athletes, but then they pivot and do something else. But this is cool to see this through line of young people love you, you love them, you have a natural knack and affinity for galvanizing and organizing and bringing peace and direction to people's lives, especially young people. And it just kind of sounds like you do what you naturally do, which is so beautiful because a lot of people don't know what they do. They don't know what they bring. Some might call it purpose or gift or whatever. And I just think that's really amazing. Just starting out here is like you said so much in such little time, and it sounds really really special. It's cool to hear you say that it's a little bit of a therapy session for you and also kind of solidifying these things for you. That's some of my favorite aspects about chatting with people because it's great to talk about craft, whatever it is that you're into or business or whatever. But I love that my guests and I can. It's also a reminder that we're human. We've gotten over challenges or you're working through them now or you've been some type of benefit to someone else, and you're in a sense rediscovering yourself, which is like really really special. um, you made me think of something just now, and then we will get into Grace Villa, but it's clearly important that we go on this track, so I'm gonna just follow it. um, can you think of a situation or even one person that you remember growing up who had that really positive impact on shaping who you are or cultivating what's special in you?
Oh yeah, my parents. Look at me answering the question. You said one, and I said parents.
No, that's okay.
Yeah. So my mom, her name is Reverend Canon Grace Ndyabahika, Nyonyozi. So she's the Grace behind the name Grace Villa.
Okay.
So I named it after her because of who she is in my life and who she is, I guess, to the world or to the community.
Hmm.
So she's a reverend in the Anglican Church, which is probably like the Episcopal Church in the USA. And she became a reverend in the days when women were not allowed to become reverends. But she was blessed to have a bishop who believed in woman emancipation. And so when she came to him with that request, he actually ordained the first 3 women reverends in Africa, in the
Wow.
Anglican Church of Africa in Africa. So it was my mom and 2 other ladies. So they were, you know, trendsetters, or I don't know what you want to call it. Um, but imagine entering a world that was for men for for life, for generations upon generations, had only been dominated by men. So it was an unknown territory. But I feel like these 3 women, my mom included, just did it well. They were very tough but not aggressive. They did it gracefully, but relentlessly, and they became um, mentors for all these women. There's now a big community of women reverends around the world. And in Uganda, I mean, mom and these other two women were the mother reverends. So I'm very proud of her. She's very gentle. We're from a tribe called the Bachiga, and we're known to be very rough. Do you remember
Oh,
when the girls were dancing for you? And I
yeah.
said, now you're gonna go to this is our dance, and we're gonna create earthquakes and and stuff
Yes, I
because
do.
when we dance, the earth tremors. Yeah, so and that's how we are supposed to speak and to look. We're tough and rough and everything, but we're awesome. I love how we are. But my mom, for some reason, is a gentle, very lovely voice. My sister and I keep saying we need to become more gentle to be like our mom.
Oh,
But she's very, very, very powerful, very, very tough, and very wise. So I feel like I was blessed to have that sort of mother to look up to, and my dad as well. So they both pushed education very much. They were both very respectful of both men and women. So we grew up very balanced. I respected my brother for being a boy. He respected me for being a girl. We both cooked, which is very unnatural. Well, it's not common amongst
sure. Yeah,
people
yeah.
here. My dad would be in the kitchen. He made the best breakfasts. He would wake us up with a cup of hot chocolate in bed. He was wonderful. Then
Wow.
he also was very empathetic to humanity.
Hmm.
So our home had a revolving door. People were always coming in, going out, were always helping. Half the time, I mean, if we had one piece of chicken, it went to the guests, that kind of life. And so I know that my heart for helping community came from how I grew up. It was a home where that was a priority. Looking after people who needed it, being kind to someone who was sad, making friends with the person nobody wanted to be friends with. That was the kind of home that I grew up in. And then another thing that I know shaped me was we were very close. So my dad got transferred a lot. Like being a reverend's daughter is like being an army kid. You get transferred wherever they send you. So
Okay, I understand.
remember, yeah. So even here in Uganda, you're in this church for 4 years, you start to make friends, and then they transfer you and you go. So many people don't go with their families because you want your family to keep changing your kids from the school they're in. We went everywhere with my parents. So I went to 7 primary schools and I went to 4 high schools because we were moving so much. But
Amazing.
I think, Mhm. but I think what that did for me, well, it made us very, very close. But I like it. I mean, the world was my school as well. I got to learn how to make friends easily. I got to learn how to transition easily. I don't mind moving, so much. I don't mind. So I think that also prepared me for what I'm doing now.
Wow, that's really cool. Sound like a very, very unique upbringing. I love how you're like, my mom was different, but she was uniquely her. And I like how you're like, should my sister and I be more like mom? But then you also got sense of community, not only from her, but from dad, and just the closeness. That's such a blessing. Because so many people don't have that from different walks of life. And that's so wonderful how you've, especially making it full circle with the naming and the founding of Grace Villa, how you circled it back in tribute to your mom. How did your mom take it when you named the school after her? Was it a
Oh,
surprise?
yeah, she loves it.
That's cool. That's really, really amazing. Did you unless it was mom and dad, and if it was, feel free to speak even more on that. Did you also have like maybe one teacher when you were growing up who had an impact on you as well?
No, no. For some reason, I don't have any of those wonderful stories I hear other people tell
I know what you
of a teacher who.
No, but that's okay because
Yeah,
you had
no.
two in mom and dad. I was just curious if there were more. That's no, that's totally cool. Um, all right, let me see what I have here. Can you, if you can, would you mind speaking to facing your fear when it came to moving back to Uganda? What ultimately, you might have hinted at it already though, what else went into you facing your fear to go ahead? It'd been 20 years or so of laying down roots, having a career, having friends, having a home state, um, being immersed in being really good at it, being a really successful nanny prior to higher education or during higher education at that time. What helped you launch out and face your fear when it came to I really want to get into I want to take my child psychology gifts and take them home and do something big with them.
Mm. Well, I think passion, you know, I think if you're excited, I think the excitement for what I was going to do superseded the fear of the unknown.
Oh, good.
Yeah, definitely. Because I was more, I this was it. This is what I wanted to do. I had no doubt about it. And the fear was a by the way. Yeah.
Cool. Cool. Would you say that would probably be something if someone wanted to do maybe not exactly what you're doing, but they wanted to do something new, pivot,
Mm,
change, and they were dealing with some
mm.
fear? Would you say passion would be one very integral ingredient to moving forward?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think if I think I mean I I know that I was lucky to know what I wanted to do. And I don't take it for granted. The fact that I knew what I was going to do and I was excited about it. So yes, definitely um it was a leap of faith, and I would say even an extraordinary leap of faith. But knowing that I knew what I was going to do, knowing that I was excited about what I was going to do, and also the fact that I also didn't just go, prepared. I prepared to go. I remember I had a book that I still have the book, which I look back and I flip through it. So I wrote everything to do with moving home in that book. Like I would meet people, and I was always
That's
asking and
good.
asking and asking.
Wonderful.
I heard that you said how you looked at YouTube channels. I didn't look at were those there in those days? 9 years ago. Well, I didn't do it, but I know I read a lot. I consulted people who were in the NGO world, and I found that there was a lot of paperwork on it. Like there was a lot of I found that it was great to discover that Uganda actually had a system in place. Like there's actually a handbook on opening a home. So there is a lot of really good material.
Ooh,
But then it's
wonderful.
just yeah. So it's material, but then how do you translate the material to actually real life? So I mean, I was always writing, and then um, I also, like I mentioned before, I committed myself. I came up with my brochure. Came up with my business cards, and all my friends knew I was moving. So pretty much, I mean, how do you change and say, "Hey, I've changed my mind," you know? And people kept, but everyone gave me years. Most gave me like 2 years and said I would come back. Everyone would
Oh,
expect me back in Boston.
okay.
They
You're
said
taking
I
bets.
wouldn't last. Yeah. And then I'm a person who I mean I like a challenge. That's another thing. If you challenge me, I like a challenge. And then so like I mentioned before also I prepared in terms of going home for like a testing period of 3 months. So there was that testing period where I came to Uganda and I was in Kabale a lot, seeing it, kind of connecting with people. I kind of prepared a sort of network. I looked at the houses to see where would I live. And then I also found out about all the what I needed to do before I started. So I did go on the ground for 3 months to prepare myself. And the whole process of from me deciding I wanted to go home to me actually moving was over a year. So I
Wow,
didn't
okay.
want so I didn't want to go home and become a burden to my family. And then I didn't want to be an embarrassment to myself. And then I didn't want to go like a savior and say, oh, I'm from America, I'm a psychologist, I know what I'm doing and all that.
Right.
Because I knew that wouldn't work. So yeah, so I think I did as much preparation as I could, you know, as I
That's
could.
good.
Of course, I
As you
reached on the
could.
ground and found that I need, you know, I was kind of green on so many things.
Sure.
But then I think that also gave me some added confidence with moving.
That's no, that's awesome because you can only prepare in certain things in my limited experience, but so much. Because if you're not careful, you could go too extreme. You probably heard the expression like, how do you say it? Paralysis through analysis, and then you don't do anything. You don't launch out.
Mm-hmm.
Because there might be real circumstances and obstacles, sure, but it's like if you don't buy the plane ticket, if you don't register the business, register the academy, etc., whatever it is that you're into, um, it won't get done. Especially because you're the one who has the commitment, the passion to do this thing, and also to do it the way you want to do it. Because a lot of us are doing a lot of the same thing, but the originality is that maybe no one's doing it the way you're doing it. Maybe no one's got the network, the support. They may not bring in the students that you will bring in for a variety of reasons. So I think that's great, and I love the you said it before I was thinking it. I don't know why. I was like, I wonder if she's a little competitive, and then you said I like a challenge,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think that's great. You had that I guess in westerns they call it grit, I guess. And you weren't
That's great. That's great.
yeah, or grittiness. Because you're like, your friends were like, some of your friends were like, oh, give it 2 years, we'll see. And if you say that to the wrong person, and by wrong person, I actually mean the right person, like you, that kind of
Yeah,
gets
yeah.
people start to stand up a little taller. The fire in their eyes burns just a little brighter, and it's like, you shouldn't have said that to me, because suddenly things start lining up. Again, there might still be obstacles, but I don't know. It does something to people, and it sounds like that was a little bit of fuel, a little bit of accelerant on the fire for you. Had you always had that um part of your personality of liking a challenge? Did that come easy to you, or did it develop later?
I don't know. I mean, I think I guess there are moments when I've had, different, different obstacles, which I do. So I don't like failure. I mean, who likes failure?
Right.
I think
I
all
know.
of us are driven by not wanting to fail,
Yeah.
wanting to succeed.
Yeah.
So, and I think it helps, like you said, put fuel behind you if people
Hmm.
challenge you, or if you don't want to get embarrassed, or if you don't want to, especially if you've declared something that you're going to do.
Yeah.
So no, I mean, I've never thought of myself as someone who looks for challenges, but yeah, but I guess if it does come up, then yeah,
You don't back down.
I won't. Yeah.
That's great.
I've climbed mountains, and I'm not a mountain climber, but I've climbed mountains just because people said, "Ha ha ha, she's why did you pray?"
You're talking about literal
The guy.
mountains.
Yes, I do climb mountains. For it should I even go into that? We have how many minutes?
Please
It
go right
came
ahead.
up as because I love home is beautiful, as you
Yeah.
saw. I don't, did you
Hmm.
like Kawale? It's really beautiful.
Yes.
And
So beautiful.
hmm. And Uganda has different layers of beautiful. Like each region that you go to is completely different and stunning in its own unique way. And I've discovered that, but you wouldn't know that if you didn't travel, right? So one of the things that I have done is travel, like with friends. I have friends with tour companies who say, you want to ride along? I have some guests from the US, like how you guys gave us your bus.
Yes.
Anyway, so
Yes.
So I've discovered I loved it. So we were trying to find creative ways of making money for the home. And we decided, instead of doing a typical like a run or a walk, charity walk, why don't we do charity climbs instead? So I'd never heard of anybody doing it, but apparently people do, but I'd never heard of anybody doing it. And so we have a really great mountain here. So we have the Virunga Ranges, which we share. Even Rwanda has some of the like, I don't know which ones you have. Nyiragongo, I don't know which one do you have on your side. But there's this mountain range, and some of the mountains are in Uganda. So the highest is Muhabura, Mount Muhabura or Muhabura, depending upon who you talk to. So I climbed it with a group of people who just climb hills and mountains for fun here in Kawale. So I said, oh, this would be a great first one for Grace Villa. So we called it Climb Mount Muhabura for Grace Villa. And we put it on Facebook, on Twitter and everything, and we put a cost to it, and people came. Like, people actually came, and they actually said it was the biggest number of climbers that they had ever had on that mountain. Wow. And it actually raised some great money for the home. But even better than the money that it raised, it created a network, because everybody that came to climb, part of the climb was to pass by our home to see the kids. They all fell in love with the kids. And that was the beginning. And we created a WhatsApp group just for the climb, like to coordinate. Do you have WhatsApp? You do have WhatsApp.
Mm-hmm.
So we create a group to help us coordinate. Just to say, we're meeting at this point, or have you paid this, or make sure you get the right sneakers or climbing shoes, things like that. And it was supposed to dissolve after the climb. But everybody was on the group said, no, we're not leaving, not going anywhere. Let's change the name from Climb the Mountain and let's call it the Grace Villa Family. So that was about 7 years ago. And that, honestly, wow, that family has upheld me. I don't know, it's one of the things that I attribute to us still existing, because they actually became family. They became, in fact, two of the people who were with us when I met you, I met them on that mountain climb.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I met you because of one of the people who, Grace, her name is Grace. She connected us to the person who brought you to Kabale, who basically helped you organize the birth.
Yeah.
The person who found us. Yeah. So I had never met her before. She saw the climb on Facebook, signed up, came, and is now the kids call her Auntie Grace. They actually, some think she's their relative, So it became, and remember, these are kids. My kids, most of them don't have parents, they're orphans. So it created a whole network just for my children. So yeah, and the only reason I climbed was because the porters, the ones who carry the backpacks and stuff, laughed and said in their language, thinking I didn't understand. They thought I was all fancy and speak the language, and they said, "There's no way she's gonna make it."
Oop.
Yeah.
I hope they didn't bet money.
I know.
That is so amazing. Yeah, I don't think I'd heard of a how did you say, a charity run, charity walk. I haven't heard of charity climb before, so that's cool. That you find out that they exist. You just hadn't heard of it, but it was perfect for you guys. It was home for you guys, and to just hear that impact like that. And you said it was 7 years ago, and that it's still helping. Say again?
It grows. So we do a climb every year or so. So since then we've done 4. So the network has grown, but it's actually the ones who came on the first one are usually the same people who come for the new climb.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's grown since then, and we've gone all over the country, and it's created good awareness for us, and then it promotes the country, which is a big deal for me. I like showing off the beauty of Uganda, not just the bad things, but the good things as well.
Of course.
And then given us a new family for the kids.
That's
and with
awesome.
me friends. Now because remember, I left most of my friends behind, so it's also given me a network of friends.
Oh, I love that. You know what? That is a perfect segue. I wanted to just get a portrait of you. Would you mind recapping briefly what Grace Villa is? And would you mind sharing some of the beginning feelings of what it was
Mm,
like founding it and putting it together, and the offerings, and what makes it so important.
mm. So if people were to ask me what Grace Villa is, it's well, it's a home for girls who need a safe place to be. So we used to say it's an orphanage, but it's not just an orphanage because some of the kids we have are not orphans, but they were in an unsafe space in their own homes, facing abuse, facing all sorts of abuse, and pulled out by the police and brought to our home. So we are a safe space for girls who need a safe place to be. So right now we have 215 children in our care,
Wow.
but in the home I live with how many are we now? I think we're now 25 kids in my house. By the time a kid comes to live with me in the house, you just know that we fail to find a safe home because our preference is for them to be in a family environment.
Sure,
So
of
the
course.
ones who are with us are the ones who we fail to find a family environment for, or if their family was unsafe. Yeah. So at this point, we only take kids who are brought to us by the police or by probation officers. We don't accept kids unless they're brought to us, from in those situations. So we work really, really well with the police and with the those stakeholders. So we do. So our home set is just a home. My vision, what I wrote down in that book, was to have a home for a maximum of 20 kids. We were only going to have 20 kids in Grace Villa. They were all going to go to a fancy private school. We're supposed to have a maid. We're supposed to have a van. We're supposed to have. It was this wonderful, beautiful vision that I had, which would have worked if I hadn't moved home to start to actually be the mother in the house. So it's almost impossible to be in a situation where a kid comes in crying in through your door and tells you the whole story. And each kid has a tragic story. And you know that if you don't take this kid in, this kid will either be on the street, this girl, little kid, or will be in a home being beaten up or sexually abused or something. But if you bring her in, then the kid will come to safety. So within a year, we had 80 kids. The 20 went up the roof.
Wow.
We didn't put anyone in private schools. They're all in the public school system, which is fine for us. And that was 9 years ago. So today we have over 200 kids. What we do is beyond the home now, beyond the safety. Education was always part of the plan. So every single kid is in school. Every single kid gets food healthy is gets nutrition and food, healthcare, um, vocational skill. Everyone has to have a vocational skill, which is how dancing came in. So part of our vocational skills, they all need to be things that teach a trade, can actually make money, so that besides the education, because in Uganda, just an education is rarely enough. So besides the education, you have something like tailoring or baking that you do really, really well.
Yes.
Dancing actually brings in a good income if you do it well. And then we also have sports. So we're big on soccer, and we actually have we've won some district championships, which is great, like
That is
kids.
great. Wow.
But then on top of that, we have many kids who, so we also get kids who are taken in on soccer scholarship. So that helps a lot with the education as well. So we have, I think, like 16 kids now in full football scholarships in Uganda. Yeah. Thank you for clapping. He's clapping.
Yes. No, you're
Anyway,
welcome.
so yeah,
Yes.
so those are our main those are our main interventions. So basically what we do is we are breaking down barriers that exist so that our children can actually succeed in life. Yeah. So one of the biggest barriers that we found, so a lot of it has been learning through experience. So I didn't know that Kamale has prevalent rape and molestation. I didn't know this.
Wow.
I didn't know that. I didn't know the extent of the HIV prevalence here. I knew that it existed, but I didn't know that it was so widespread.
Okay.
So this place it's actually such a beautiful area, but then with a lot of hardship. There's a lot of hardship. So I'm glad I'm here because, one of my inspirations now, if you ask me now, what is my biggest inspiration? One of my biggest inspirations is the kids themselves who
Mm-hmm.
come to me for help. Most of them are passionate about education. Actually, all of them. That's like their big dream in life. And remember how with us they used to wake us up and force us to school. With them, if with them, school is that's like
It's
their joy.
life.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. And I think it's because they've seen it for themselves, and it's a fact that this is one surefire way to get out of like cycles of poverty. These cycles that of poverty, of having kids, child marriages, and just
Of
so.
course.
I actually see. I have so many examples in front of me of kids who maybe who I didn't, and it breaks my heart. Like a kid who I didn't take. Within a year, she's married, and she's young. She's 14, she's 15, and you know that that's it. That's it for her. She's just gonna have 7 kids. They're gonna always be hungry. They're not gonna be healthy. They're not gonna. So then I see also the other side, and I see how, because our kids who we are taking, our kids and their families and their communities, we're actually seeing great, great change right in front of our eyes. So it inspires me as well because our kids are amazing, and I think it's also, yeah, it's something that pushes us even through struggles and all that. It pushes us to keep going.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's really, really powerful. What was it like? Uh, how did you determine the finding the right other instructors and all and adult professionals to help you cultivate this culture and this
Mm.
curriculum and make this home safe? What was that like, kind of assembling your team
Yeah, good question. Sadly, I didn't have a team because I couldn't afford a team in the beginning. I
in the
didn't have
beginning? Sure.
a good team. Yeah. So, but I was so lucky in those 3 months that I came prior to starting the home. I met somebody, a young man who was the youth chairperson. Basically, it's like a government position, but it's given to youth, like college age. So he was in charge of youth. So he heard about what I was planning to do, took my card, gave me his, and just became a lifeline. So he's the one who helped me get registered the right way. He's the one who helped me learn that you need to be friends with the Boda Boda guy, and which market to go to, and all those things that I
Wow.
would have never ever thought about. So, and he also introduced, and then I also joined that group that walks, the trekking group, and through that group I met headmasters and nurses, and so they became our network of people who I would call when I needed help. I also became friendly with the police, and ever since then up to today, I think my closest friends are the police, which is which is helpful because I'm always at the police station with some case or the other.
Wow.
And yeah, so to get the right help, and I still, I don't know who listens to your podcast, so so I'll mention it and say we're constantly looking for people to come and help. Like if someone wants to take a sabbatical and come and teach, or wants to take a sabbatical and come and help in administrative work with us, we would be really, really grateful because we, we still, we're not under any organization. So we live almost day to day. For some reason, my grant, if you even have people who know how to write grants, because I've found that that's not my gift, because I've written 1,000 and never got anything. So we're always living day to day, which is tough, but has also created our culture at home where the kids know that Auntie Ruth wakes up struggling to find your school fees, find your food, so nobody takes anything for granted at all. And then
Wow. Yeah.
everybody is really happy for what we get. If somebody brings us a bunch of bananas, oh, we dance, like we're thrilled. So it's
Of
it's created
course.
a culture
Yes.
of not taking things for granted. Yeah. And then it's also raising children who also want to bring into the home. We have some of our oldest kids. One of our kids is in university. She got a full scholarship in Mauritius, which is
Wow. I've been learning about
wonderful. Yeah,
Mauritius.
it's beautiful.
Congratulations
We
to
can't
her.
wait for yeah, we can't wait for her graduation so we all go and experience
Yes,
Mauritius.
absolutely.
Yeah, and she's in a very strong university which you could have heard of in Rwanda. They have a one of their branches is in Rwanda called Africa Leadership University. So
Okay.
she is in Mauritius and she is on full scholarship and gets some pocket money and got a job in the cafeteria and worked really hard. Came home about a month and a half ago with all her savings and said her plan was to buy land for Grace Villa. So we went and
Wow.
she found land and actually bought a plot of land for the home. And she's spending a holiday cultivating so that we have food from that. So this is our child. And
Yes.
I attribute it to the way we are in the home. She's working hard instead, and I love this. She said to her sisters, her Grace Villa sisters, she said, savings takes humility. Because she said, I'm not buying the cool clothes which the other kids are buying. I'm not going out to the cool fast food places with all of them. And I'm working. And by the way, she ran for vice president and won. So she's a vice president of the college, but
Wow.
she's still working. She's serving the other students. So they're all saying, but you're the vice president. But she knows what her target is. She knows what she's aiming for. So she came home with I think it was 14 million Uganda shillings and bought a plot of land. Yeah. So yeah. I'm not saying I love that we are struggling. I mean, I'd rather that we I think we should be done at this point,
Of course. No,
but
yes.
there's a flip side to it, There's a flip side to it. And then I also purposely wanted it to be a Ugandan, an African run and funded, not only but predominantly. I wanted the girls to grow up proud of being Ugandans.
Yeah.
And what brings that pride? Who are you surrounded by? Who is uplifting you? Who's lifting you up? Maybe I don't know if I should go here or not, but there was a tendency, there is, for if a foreigner, like a person comes in, I might say a white person, I don't know who comes. People get excited when they see. So you edit it if I'm saying the wrong words. So people would get excited when they see people of a different color come into their school or into their village because they always attributed this to wealth,
Right.
And they always knew that the people who were rescuing them or paying for their education were always a different color, So, but in our home, kids know that it's everybody,
Yes. Okay.
And to be honest, the people who are more there are their color, So, and to me, that was very important.
Yes.
So for me, that was very, very important. So, but one thing that it's done is, we're struggling financially, but we are making it. So it's been 9 years. We hit 10 years next year, and I'm very proud to say that we were funded by a woman.
Yes.
We're a woman-run organization and an African woman-run organization, and then predominantly funded and supported by people just like the kids.
Wow.
Has that all made sense? I hope it's come out right.
Yes, no, that all made
an important
sense.
thing.
It's everyone's contributing, but it's also like you said, it's African, and then you whittle it down. It's Ugandan women saving women. Everyone's contributing, but it's that sense of that makes perfect sense of just putting that strength, wisdom, savviness, education, humility, lovingness on display. And it's like you're taking in yourself and being able to bask in the rewards as they come. You face the challenges as they come together, but it gives you a
Mhm.
sense. It still gives solidifies something powerful about yourself. You get to learn something about yourself. Um, on that point, yes, all of that made sense, Ruth. In addition to that one student you mentioned, who's like she like bought a plot of land, she saved. She's like she sounds like a superhero to her other sisters. Are there other areas where great or small, but I mean it's all valuable, where you've been seeing that that African, that Ugandan, that sisterhood pride in your girls over like are there any standout things where like it's taking root, they're coming into their own?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Um, COVID was a tumultuous time, a very strange, sad, awful time,
Yes.
but it also revealed a lot for our home. So one thing, schools were all shut down for over 2 years in Uganda. So we had to come up with creative ways of keeping our kids educated. And I love how everybody stepped up. So we actually had classes and they were run by the older girls. So we have all ages in the home, from little ones who are like 4 years old all the way up to kids who are in university.
Okay.
So so it's just like any other home with all ages. And the university kids all came in when they were in high school. So they've been with us for like 8 years, through that. So I love how everybody just took charge. So we, and our kids who are now back in school, many of them are reporting that they are ahead of other kids because of the interventions of their sisters. We
Love
also
it.
did online classes and all that. But I love how home is run by the girls. Home is actually run by the kids. So the one graduate that we have was hired back as our accounting officer. So she's in charge of our finances. And the second, so another girl in university she had planned to do social work. Then when she taught during the COVID break, she fell in love with teaching and has changed her major to education. So she's now doing education because
Wow.
of that. And yeah, so then I don't, yeah, so I'm just seeing a lot of empathy amongst the kids. So one thing at the home, we do not, we I'm raising the kids to welcome, to be welcoming, okay? Because and not welcoming of people who look fancy in cars, but even people who come barefoot and all that. And but the kids themselves are learning how to respect every level because we're actually fed even by women who have nothing, who walk barefoot, who dig for a living and get their harvest and bring us potatoes, bring us
Wow.
eggs from their chickens. So we get, because they know what we're doing, that we're taking care of kids in the community, and they know that we're not funded by any big organization. So the kids are learning how to respect all levels of humanity and be wonderful to people. And I like that because one of my pet peeves is arrogance,
Hmm.
and I so respect for all levels. So we do a lot of outreach, and a lot of the outreach is brought to me, like the ideas are brought by the girls themselves. Like an old woman's house has fallen, Auntie Ruth, can we go and help build the house? And then we'll spend weeks building with mud, like literally building the house. The
Yeah.
kids, well, not me personally, but but the girls themselves.
Hmm.
And so I like this. I like how the girls are. And there's nothing that makes me happier than people coming and saying, "Oh, you weren't home, but we didn't. It was great, without you there." But how did you, how did you raise girls who were so welcoming, who were so outspoken, who was so? Because here the tendency is for girls to not look you in the eye. It's not a
Oh,
tendency, but it's how they're actually raised. So a respect thing is not to look adults in the eye and not to look men in the eye. Girls are usually supposed to be all meek and down, look with their eyes facing down. But then I teach them, have a firm handshake.
hmm.
Be confident. Don't be arrogant, but be open. You know, and everybody learns how to speak because I call upon them to welcome, to give speeches, like something with no discrimination.
Yeah.
when we get, like, if you came to visit and you're about to leave, I'll say, Doreen, could you come and thank our guests for coming to visit? So she has to stand in front of all that, like 40 kids. And so, so I'm trying to teach them to hold their own, in all circumstances. And then one fear I've always had is what if something happens to me? What will happen to the home? You just never know. Especially you saw what COVID, how it taught us that nothing is certain.
That's right.
Right. So what if I got sick? And like, so, and remember, we our budget isn't big enough to have major staffing. So I'm glad that we have all ages, including the age that you could actually hire, above 21. Some of our girls who are still in college, because many of them, their education was delayed. So they're a bit older than they should be in the classes that they're in.
Gotcha.
So they all have leadership roles. We have elections once a year, very, very competitive elections. We have Miss Grace Villa, we have education, we have security, we have health, we have, we have music, the head of music, head of catering. So all the girls, there's a system in the home, and everybody takes it very seriously. So the girls are great. I like that. So, but last year we were blessed to be able to hire. Finally, I have a good administrative assistant, Doreen, who's great. Wonderful. And then we have someone in charge of education. So we hired 2 people. So we now have 2 full-time staff members who are really, really, really great. And then our other staff we've always had a cook for the bigger group, not for the home, but for when everybody's home, the 200 kids, which happens often. And then also a security guard. We've always had a security guard. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I like how you said the word earlier, coming into their own, because they sound very independent, and sure of themselves. I remember when we were all having dinner for my Uncle Don's birthday, and they're just, to me, just seemed to be, yeah, this sense of confidence, a sense of, if I couldn't tell if anyone messed up, but it felt like if someone did, a sister had each other's back, and they were smiling, and it was genuine, and it was okay. And I remember my dad said, he was taken by surprise because it felt like a dozen girls rushed him at the table to introduce themselves and to say good evening and ask how he liked it, and what's your name, sir, and they told him their names and had stories and things, and there was just really, there was just a great energy and just a sense of individuality, yet a collective sisterhood at the same time. And it was just from the singing to the dancing, it was just great. So to hear you say, you think about, if you couldn't run things, would they be able to take care of things? Are there systems and staff in place? And or people have talked about, you, I think you just mentioned, Ruth wasn't there, but the girls took it over. It was, that's great. It sounds like, my dad talks all the time to my brothers and I about how, he wants to feel like he left something or some type of mark that we could maybe we can't handle everything, no one ever can, but that you're equipped. And it's just beautiful to hear that from you, and to hear other people saying that to you in different ways of your girls, that they'll be okay, or that they are doing okay, or, and some of them are even coming back, with the young sister you said who's the accounting in charge of accounting now, or the other sister you mentioned who's bought the plot of land, and they're sewing back in. Yes, I just think that was just mind-blowingly powerful. I think it's amazing. How do you feel? You've got to feel a sense of no, yeah. I won't lead the witness. How do you?
Yeah. No, sometimes we're guilty of failing to acknowledge the like how maybe redemptive and positive this work is, and joyous. And I want to stress how happy I am to be where I am. I know I wouldn't, this wouldn't exist if there were not sad stories in place, which is awful. Like we wish we
Right.
didn't have
Of
to
course.
exist
Of
as
course.
Grace Villa. And yeah, and none of the kids want to be where they are. You know, none of them asked to be born in this circumstance.
Right.
But that being said, I'm in a very happy place. I love what I do. I get up in the morning and I just praise the Lord, and I'm grateful for how it has evolved. You know, we've had ups and downs, and we've learned from the downs. You know, like the failures. We've had many failures. You know, like we were evicted from a house, um, three in the middle of COVID,
Oh,
and because
wow.
our rent paying was a bit scatty, and because
Mm.
I think they were tired, but we had lived there for 7 years and had never owed for, you know, so I was also a bit, come on, we've been here for 7 years and we've been good tenants. Well,
Yeah.
not the best tenants, but we're good. But anyway, so that was terrifying. But out of that came our new home. We did a fundraiser on Facebook, and within 3 months, people were great enough to buy our own house.
Wow.
You know, so that's what I'm saying. We've had awful lows. I mean, we were homeless, and then so a good thing came out of that. We've had, you know, so yeah, I'm happy. I'm grateful. I don't take any of it for granted. Um, the statistics that exist that are in place, especially about girls who are orphaned and underprotected, are awful, because Uganda has actually the highest rate of teen pregnancies in sub-Saharan Africa. They register 25% every year. It's ranked as the ninth hotspot for child marriages in the whole world. You know, there are all these awful statistics. So we feel blessed that we are in place to do the best that we can, like as much as we can. And we acknowledge that what we do is the fruit of amazing people around us, you know. Some who don't even know it, because you guys probably don't know how, you know, even that one evening with you guys, we made some good. I think I told you, right? We actually got money that paid some
Yes.
school fees, like some really good money
Yes, you
from hanging
did.
out with you guys. Yeah, so that was just, yeah. And besides that, I mean, you guys just try. I mean, the whole month we were excited. I think we're still excited till today
Oh,
from
that's great.
how your group, because for me, the way people receive my kids matters, but I teach them not to expect, right? Because many times
Okay.
we
Sure.
perform, we're looked at as the help. We're here just to perform, first of all, right?
Yeah.
And many people have a mentality about orphans, sadly, but they do. So I don't want heartbreak. So the girls are always under expectant. But you guys
Okay.
just pulled out the red carpet for my kids, and
We were happy
they
to do it.
and talking about how the staff pulled out chairs for them and put napkins on their laps. They'd only seen it in movies, and you gave them this amazing meal. So anyway, so when I talk about the fruit of many hands, some of people don't realize the impact, because imagine how high their heads were held after that, and forever
Hmm.
they'll remember that these people actually thought me important enough to treat me in this way. So it actually impacts long term. And then we have, yeah. So besides that, we have a great board in place,
Hmm.
a board of directors, very good advisory. Then we have, like I mentioned, the new staff, which is something we're proud of. We have something that we call the Dream Team, which is a steering committee, which is comprised of volunteers who came through that other Grace Villa family that I mentioned from the mountain climbs and all that. And they meet every single month, once a month, to plan how to run the home. They're in charge of everything, the agriculture, the pets, the birthdays of the kids, the even when we came to perform, one of the members who was with us is a dream team member who's in charge of dance. So she came to make sure the girls were okay,
Hmm.
you know, and these are 100% voluntary. Half of them are broke, you
Wow.
know, but
Okay.
very rich on time and love for the, like so much passion for the kids. Yeah.
Yes.
And then, yeah, so then my family, I mentioned how very close I am to my brother and my sister and my parents. because
Yes.
sadly my dad passed away a few years ago. And
May you
then
rest in peace.
my kids. Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah.
And then I must mention the donors and people who support the kids. You know, we have
Yes.
some people who sponsor some kids. So yeah, so it's all this whole collective that, you know, comes together to make what we do possible. And yeah, I feel blessed. Yeah, I feel very
Good.
blessed.
Good. You
Mhm.
should, and and sounds like you've done a great tribute to your father as well, to his memory and everything he instilled in you and your siblings, and to watch it spread out to the home, to Grace Villa. Um, it's just wonderful to see how he was used and how you've been used to bless other people. And may God continue to bless the work of your hands and those of your staff, those of your family, the donors, everyone, the system. You never know where the blessings is going to come from next. But there are things in my limited experience in place behind the curtain, behind the scenes. And it sounds like you've alluded to them already. You think you've had challenges, but then things came through somehow, and sometimes better, like the one home you mentioned, you had the eviction, but then
Yeah.
something better. You guys held it together. I'm sure it was terrifying. I don't know what that was like, especially from a leadership position like yourself, all that love and generosity and all these young ones looking to you, but a way was made out of no way, thankfully. And it just sounds
Mm.
like a lot of faith muscles as well as skill set, expertise, networking, genuine friendship and connection. All of it just seems to kind of be working in concert to contribute
Mm. Mm.
to the home.
Right.
I think that's beautiful. Is there one thing you'd say you said they call you auntie, so I guess your nieces have taught you?
Mm. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Like I mentioned before, they've all had a tough past, but I love the way they're not allowing their pasts to define them.
Yes.
And I don't know how to say that any better. Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
Um, you met them yourself. They are not miserable. You know, they
Not at all.
do.
Not at all.
They're It comes out maybe when we're having, because we have nightly fellowship. So sometimes in fellowship, they'll talk about their past, which I like. I mean, it's important it's cathartic and all that about their past, but they don't allow it to define them. Instead, they use it as a stepping stone. They use what they went through to push them to greater heights. They're so loving, um, and their hearts are open. So they challenge me. Yeah. They challenge me, and I think they are one reason why I don't allow scary times to take over. Because if they've been through what they've been through and have come through with such grace and still having so much joy in their hearts, then who am I to cry over something, as through over life? Yeah. So yes, so they are now, I think, one of my biggest inspirations. And I can't wait to see what they become. I'm already seeing part of it, but I can't wait to see the future. Mhm.
Yes, that's
So
beautiful. It's 9 years now. Here's to nine more times infinity. Um,
yeah, yeah.
because because you must be, and yes, you've said it. The pride um in seeing the results and seeing the sisters who come back and so in those who go out um
Mm.
has just got to be amazing. Would you be able to say, in from your perspective, why is um or reshape it as you need to, if I ask it weird, but I just feel compelled to ask, like, how do you see, like, why is Uganda and you're in this section where you guys are better because of Grace Villa?
Mm. What? I didn't hear the question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, would you be able to say why is Uganda better because of Grace
Mm,
Villa? I feel like we've kind of in a long way like
mm,
highlighted it, but it just feels like things are better because you all are there.
mm. Yeah, in our own. I think every drop matters in an ocean. So we are a drop in the ocean. But then I think one thing that we're showing people is that you can all help. Everybody can do something in their own way. Um, I know one thing that we do is we highlight people who help us on their birthdays on our page. And one thing that I always say, even for the college kids who post about us, right? And you yourself know how powerful marketing or talking about something is on social
Mm-hmm.
media.
Yeah.
So even that, someone can have nothing but have a positive thing to say, and it has a ripple effect. So people, and then I also have many people traveling from Kampala for not just coming to spend a weekend with the kids or to teach the kids how to bake. There's this lady who has a baking company who she has a very big business, but she comes to you to Kalale every year for at least a week, training the girls on how to bake right, like not just bake anyhow, but actually bake right.
Wow.
We have someone who is actually in the film industry. His name is King, and he came and said, I want to reach out, I want to help in my own way. Can I teach a class on filmmaking? And I'm like, yes, please, yes. So he's been coming, I think for now 4 years almost, every single Thursday. And he started with theory, he started with, like they never touched a camera. They were like, when are we touching cameras? But he was teaching them the real like the foundation of
Yeah.
it all, and now they're editing. They actually have documentaries out, my kids acting, editing, everything, directing. And so I love that people are giving back and we're talking about it so that other people know that it's not just foreigners who help.
Yeah.
Even as Ugandans, they can be very impactful. And we're giving them a way of giving back. We're giving them the platform to do it because people are kind. They want to help, but they don't know how. So we're helping with that. Then I also like how we are changing the local communities because I talked about gender violence, gender-based
Mm-hmm.
violence, and all that. And one of the reasons it exists is ignorance. Honestly, I mean, it sounds odd, like who would be ignorant about it? But people grow up thinking it's okay to hit a wife or to hit a girl because this is how they were raised and this is what they've always seen. And so we're actually we're helping to dispel myths and wrong norms through, and I think the only way you can do that is having long-term programs, not just saying we'll talk about it on the radio once and that's done, or they'll watch a movie and they'll be fixed. No, it's long-term, it's systematic, and men are seeing their daughters going out to dance and coming back with money for the home, giving the home food, right? Or they're seeing their kid like Chirao, who was really marginalized as a girl, the girl who I mentioned bought land, coming home and buying her grandmother a phone or actually bringing food so they're seeing the impact of educating a girl because the norm was you educate the boys and you marry the girls off, right? But they're seeing, even through COVID, we supported our kids. I mean, people really, really supported us through COVID. Like we got a lot of help, a lot. We didn't struggle because of support. And the support was spilled over into the community, the families that looked after have our kids in them. So these families are seeing the girls actually feeding the home. So basically, I'm just trying to give examples of how norms can be shifted
Yes.
just from exposure and yeah. And yeah, so I think those are my main two things that I love of what we're doing. Yeah, I think
That's fantastic.
those are the
That's
main.
awesome. No, you reeled off a lot, especially interpersonal family structures, the norms with the violence you mentioned, and how you guys are sensitive to seeing, like, I like how you mentioned, like, it may sound odd maybe to someone else, I can imagine that, but some things, depending on the culture you're talking about, some things were normalized for whatever reason that they were, and you guys are making a powerful contribution to I think you use the word dispelling. I think dispelling that and switching that and changing that. Um, and you're seeing reception, people being men, especially being receptive to that. People are. It sounds to me like in the long run, because you're right, these things won't be dispelled or healed in one night, but the healing and the wholeness is taking place, and this is creating or will create cohesion. If it, I'm sure it is right now. I don't know why I said it that way, but it's just being sensitive to it. I think that's really really powerful, and I think it's great that to a point you made earlier. And if this talk has contributed, I'm so thankful, with yourself, with your nieces, with everyone at the home. Where yes, it's important to take the time to do what you're doing and reflect on the triumphs, because I like you mentioned the catharsis earlier, because yes, a lot of great many of them have come from dark situations. We're not trying to paint over it and pretend it didn't happen or anything like that. We're trying to bond together and bring the right people, the right men and women, and especially the right women of intelligence, of integrity, of generosity, of expertise, to kind of hold your hand through it, or if not hold your hand, listen, be a sounding board, be some type of force for good to gradually move forward toward wholeness. And I thought that was, because that's great, because it's so easy to get caught up, and I'm sure you remember it, maybe slightly different in the States. I definitely still remember it, where you get really goal oriented and you don't give yourself the grace to
Yes.
to see where you've come from, to process in a healthy way. Maybe this is bothering you. Maybe these nightmares or these failures or embarrassments or whatever, because you're a person. You're not raising superheroes, but you want people to discover their powers inside for wholeness, for a healthy life, for a future. Um, I just think that's just amazing. This has been great, Ruth. I just got a couple more questions for you. It's been a really powerful discussion, and it's been really fun to also reconnect from that night,
Yeah.
because it was all you listening. It was amazing. My uncle Don. We all had a great time. I didn't know what was gonna happen, and so when Grace Villa came through, and I was just like, "Yo, we got authentic Ugandan dance and song," and just like I thought it was my birthday. It was, it was,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
just be able
We
to
we all felt the same way.
you offer that's beautiful. And to have
Yeah.
been able to contribute to the donations, and they had all these amazing shirts and hoodies and different really cool merchandise. They had a booth set up and this and that, and it was just, man, it was just really a blessing. I can't stress it enough. You guys really blessed us. You definitely blessed me um, a lot that night.
Yeah.
I won't soon forget that night. Um, is there something you would say to your younger self now, looking at what you've accomplished, what you are accomplishing, what's being realized? It's not your head anymore. Some of these things, they've materialized. Is there any advice or anything you would give to your younger self?
Mm. Hmm. Um, well, I'm glad that I think I like how my life evolved, both good and bad things. Um, I think if well, not to my younger self, but maybe someone, if I was to prepare myself better for this journey, I think I would have taken some more courses in like administrative stuff, because in the US
Sure.
is,
Yeah.
I guess even here, I guess, but now I don't have the time for it. But to actually prepare myself to be able to run an organization better, maybe like some administrative courses, some stuff in finance, and I know that I would do that if I was to go back to that preparation stage of my life. Um, and I think I'm happy with the way I retain my friendships. So we shouldn't, I'm glad that I retain my old friendships, even from way, way back when I was even a young child, because those have helped me a lot. They kept me grounded and supported me, because there's a tendency to just become about, when you're doing your own organization, it's a bit dangerous because it can consume you. So if you don't have people to keep reining you in, and because it shouldn't, my convention should not, I don't want people to always look at me and say, oh, fundraising, she needs money,
Sure, yeah.
that but that's something that can happen, because it's your life. That's, mainly what you're thinking about. So I'm glad that I have, besides my family, I have friends who look at me as Ruth, and keep me grounded. Grateful for my spirituality. I'm born again, and I know that has helped me a lot, a lot, lot, lot. Because like it's as much as there are wonderful things involved in this, there's also a lot of, I deal with a lot of tough stories, a lot of it, I don't talk about them on social media and all that, because people don't really want to hear. And also I don't want to expose my kids, so there's a lot to deal with. So if I didn't have a support system, I could break down. So I'm thankful that my younger self made friends, and that I retained, those friends. Um, so I don't know. I don't think I've said anything profound here, but yeah, that's about it.
No, that's great. No, but I'm
Mhm.
sure it was for somebody, but if not, it was honest.
Yeah.
Very, very honest. Thank you. So let me see. Um, where can people learn more about Grace Villa and also get involved? Because you mentioned you have bakers, business people, filmmakers, people are coming to bring their gifts at the feet of
Yes.
Grace Villa and contribute. So where can people learn more about what you guys offer and what they can offer you?
Mm-hmm. We have a website, which is www.gracevilla.org, where, but I prefer our social media handles because I'm more active there. Um, I don't love our website, I need to work on that. So we have Facebook, we have Grace Villa Kabale. Even if you just Google Grace Villa, and Kabale is Kabale. So if you Google Grace Villa Kabale, you'll see our website, you'll see our social media handles like Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And then even myself, if you Google Ruth Bahika or Ruth, will you remember my last name, Ndyabahika in Kabale, then you also see what we're doing, just to learn more about about us. And um, we're grateful for any sort of support we need it. And whether it's like Josiah just mentioned, whether it's coming in with your gifts, or whether it's helping us rally, because we constantly need funding, because all the kids are enrolled in schools which need school fees, and that's our biggest expense. The kids need to eat. We need things like sanitary pads. We need to live. So we do constantly need finances. And yeah, and then those who are spiritual, we appreciate prayer. We appreciate prayer and just good
Yes,
thoughts sent our way. So yeah, and things
wonderful.
like this, Josiah.
Yeah.
I love getting a chance to speak about what we do, about our journey. And it also helps me because it opened my mind up to certain things, and I'm grateful for this time that I've spent with you.
Wonderful. I'm grateful too. Yes, everyone. Again, I will link everything on the show notes and on the website for Josiah's Voice. Because if you were really inspired and moved by everything Ruth had to say, like I welcome you to welcome her onto your platform or a write up or anything to continue to spread the word because homes like Grace Villa, the world needs more of them, and I'm glad that you guys are continuing to endure and survive and thrive. I'm so excited again about the additional staff you were talking about. I can only imagine how you feel. You must be singing and dancing. Um,
Yeah.
you guys also have a YouTube channel, isn't that
Oh
right? You
yeah.
still
Oh,
have that?
yes. Thank you for saying that. Please subscribe.
No,
So
it's
it's
dope.
also it's called Grace Villa as well, Grace Villa Cavalli. So everything we put Cavalli because apparently there are other Grace Villas in the world.
Okay.
So we always we need to add the word Cavalli. Yeah. So
Yeah,
yes, we do have a YouTube channel.
because you were
Make sure you subscribe.
releasing music and dance and updates
Mhm.
on there, right? I was like, oh wow,
Yeah,
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 songs and everything. It was so cool. I was like, there's so many outlets. There's so much you all are doing.
yeah, yeah. The girls are amazing. Yeah.
Awesome. Last but not least, where do you? Because yes, all these resources, all this prayer, is not going to waste. Where do you, as we close, where do you see Grace Villa in the future? Your vision.
Mm, mm. Yeah, we've been thinking about that a lot because of the 9 years that have passed, and now we're hitting next year is 10 years of Grace Villa, and we actually invite you to come and join us for our
Oh,
10-year anniversary. We have a week long of festivities planned. Um,
can't wait.
so yes, so we realized the importance of having a vocational center of our own, like a big space that not a school, but a vocational center where we'll have a stage to perform on and invite people to come and watch us perform, and a space to practice, not under a tree because of our, weather and dust and all that. We want to have our own little coffee shop in that vocational center, which is an outlet for the things that we bake. In that place, we'll have a space for tailoring because we have some really good machines that were donated to us, but we need a proper space in which to do that. And that tailoring center, after COVID, we evolved to also include parents or guardians of girls who look after us who lost their jobs during COVID. So we need a bigger space for that. And it will also have a place for making shoes, like all the different things that we do. We do mat weaving. So we need a proper space that will house all of that. So that's what we're working. That's what our goal is for 10 years of Grace Villa. Yeah. So growing up to become a bit more self-sustainable through that vocational training center. Or you'll have a proper library. Right now, our library is our garage because we don't have a car. So we turned our garage space into a really fantastic library that is open to all kids in the community. And they really, really come through. So we want a
Beautiful,
bigger, more
beautiful.
proper space. So basically, we're just creating a bigger space in which to put all our different projects and activities in a nice in it. So that's where we see ourselves in the next couple of years.
That's exciting. I got really excited, especially when I heard about the library, because I think we talked about I'm a big bookworm as well. So that's great that the girls and the community children can enjoy. Ruth, this has been a real blessing. Been a real treat. I'm glad that I could contribute to the platform for Grace Villa and the work that you're doing. I know this is going to be a blessing, and I just continue to pray and will continue to contribute in whatever way I can to the expansion of what you all are doing. Again, I don't think it's going to be forgotten anytime soon. The eyes of the Lord shine brighter than 1,000 suns, and He sees what you and your staff and your family are doing. So, guys, again, all of the information that Ruth and the story she shared, I'm going to link all the social media and websites, YouTube and everything, so that you can get involved and from there even learn about other programs like this as you feel led, because they're all doing the same blessed work, just in different ways, and it's just all about community. That's definitely what I've gotten from this talk. So thank you again, Ruth. I'm glad you had a good time, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll talk to you next time. See ya.